morning, Core Community family. My name is Stephanie Lira, and I am excited to bring you our February Core Community events. Most of these events will be taking place up at the Core Community Center, either in the main sanctuary, the lobby, or the children's building. If you have any questions about the different events, you can head on out to the info booth. Our volunteers will have more information about the events. You can also get information or register for events online or in our Core Community app. First off, we have our Tiny Tots ministry. This ministry meets once a month on the second Monday of the month. This ministry is for moms and their nursery and preschool aged children. Their next meeting will be on February the 10th from 9:30 to 11 a.m. This coming Tuesday, we have our Core Community Book Club. Book Club meets on the first Tuesday of the month, and this month's book is The Consolation of Philosophy. On the second Tuesdays, our men's discussion group meets out at Lewis & Holmes in Peyton from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. Wednesdays, we have our Midweek Madness. This is split up between our middle schoolers and high schoolers. High schoolers, your Midweek Madness is on the first and third Wednesdays, and middle schoolers, yours is on the second and fourth Wednesdays. On February the 6th, we'll be kicking off our next round of Thursday Things. This will happen from 6 o'clock to 7:30. We have a potluck from 6 o'clock to 6:30, followed by a discussion group. On February the 6th, our discussion will actually be a missions roundtable. And on February the 13th, we will be talking about the restoration movement. On Fridays, we have our women's Bible study from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock. And also for our ladies, we have our annual women's retreat coming up at Glen Erie Castle. That'll be March the 14th through the 16th. Registration does close on February 16th, so make sure if you are planning on going, you get registered for that. We do only have 7 spots left available. So again, make sure you register online or in the app for that. And finally, on February the 9th, we will have signups available for our Core Community Cornhole League. That'll be starting up on March the 4th and will be running for 6 weeks. Lots of different things coming up here at the Core. We are excited to spend some time with you outside of Sunday morning services. Again, if you have any questions about any of these events, make sure to swing by the information booth where our volunteers can help you out, or you can check out more details online or in our app. We look forward to seeing you soon.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my doom till I met you. When you called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Your mercy has saved my soul. Now your freedom is all that I know. The old made new, Jesus, when I met you. When you called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious My sin was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan. Now you call me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. Now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes were open, 'cause when you call my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. You call my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day.
Morning. It is Groundhog Day, which is bizarre on a Sunday. So we heard, though, that he saw his shadow. That means 6 more weeks of winter. Hate that groundhog. So take a moment, say hello to those around you. If you're in K through 5th grade and you're heading next door, Mr. David's back there waving his hands. You can meet him. He'll make sure you get next door. But introduce yourself. A lot of new people today. Okay.
Well, again, I'm so excited to be here as you're welcoming each other. I just wanted to kind of get up and talk a little bit about why I'm here and at this great church at Meridian Point Church. And I am Dave Silva with Colorado Christian University. I represent the College of Adult and Graduate Studies, also known as CCU Online. We have a great partnership with Meridian Church, Meridian Point Church, and what that is if you're wanting to seek a bachelor's program, it's 20% off. If you want a master's program, it's 10% off. We have over 100 different programs. We have one class at a time, every 5 weeks, and you can do all your studies in the comforts of your own home. So you don't have to come to our campus in Lakewood or down here at the counseling center here in Colorado Springs. You can do everything from the comforts of your home or work, whatever. So some people ask, why CCU? Well, first off and foremost, it's for adult online learners that want to, maybe you started a degree a long time ago and you got some transfer credits. We are very favorable. We'll transfer up to 90 credits for you to try to get you that associate degree done and that bachelor's degree done. The biggest reason why people come to CCU is this. Every single class is going to have an integration of faith and learning. You're always going to have God right there with you. It's a biblical perspective every single week. So one thing, again, along with the 20% off and the 10% off, when I come and visit, you get $1,000 off scholarship as well. And what that means to you is your first 4 classes would be $250 off for 4 classes. And again, if you're even remotely interested in learning about what our classes are, talking to one of my experts, I'd love for you to come back by the booth, the table that I'm at today, and fill out one of these information cards. All you're going to do is get a phone call from someone that loves you, that wants to see if this could be the right fit for you. And again, thank you for allowing me to be here today, leadership and congregation. And please come by and see me. Plus, I have some great swag, and I even have some lollipops too. Well, one clarification, I just want to make sure. This is for the adult online learner. We have another campus in Lakewood for the traditional high school student that wants to come out and go to college with us, which we would love to do a full tour with. So again, thank you very much and have a wonderful service. Thank you.
It is Groundhog's Day. Unfortunately, the groundhog saw a shadow, so 6 more weeks of winter. So if you want to stand up, say hello to someone around you, greet some. I thought I'd try it. Nah. I figure first service, you guys aren't done talking to each other until I'm halfway through my message anyway, so why continue on? It was Groundhog. Want to welcome you this morning. If you are new with us and I didn't get a chance to say hi, just want to encourage you to stop by the back of the room when we're done. I will be back there. Would love to get a chance to introduce myself and say hi. We have a Super Bowl party coming up on the 9th. I don't know why, but we have one on the 9th. So if you want to come out, we'll be here watching. How many of you are Kansas City fans? Yeah, that's and you get booed. I'm a Lions fan. I think I was talking to Ron last week. I said, I would love to be hated. We can never get hated because we can't win anything. How many of you are Eagles fans? Any Eagles fans? Really? How many of you are praying for just, I don't know, both teams to lose? Is that possible to happen? So, all right. I was going to say for the stadium to collapse, but I thought that was too dark, so I won't do that. I want to encourage you to come out next week. We'll be having that. Also want to let you know, if you're new with us, we start today a thing we call our starting point. It's a 4-week thing, meets at our house 4 o'clock this afternoon. It's for new people. If you're just interested in knowing more about the church, you want to see if this is where God is calling you to be a part of, you can come out to our house, and we'll tell you a little bit about what God is doing here at Meridian Point. You can ask any questions you may have, and we'll just spend some time getting to know each other. And so if you'd like to come to our house this afternoon, see me after the service. I'll get you our address and all, and would love to have you come out. If you're going to come and you're bringing kids, let us know, because we have somebody to watch kids too, so let me know that after the service. How many of you have seen Bill Murray's Groundhog Day? That's amazing, all right? I think before I watched it this time, I hadn't seen it in probably 20 years. I mean, it had been a long time, so since I was like 12. I had not seen it for a long time. I'm going to make an audacious statement. I think it's easily Bill Murray's best movie. Bill Murray plays Bill Murray in every movie. I mean, he doesn't change. It is better than Caddyshack. It is better than What About Bill? Is that what it was? What About Bill? Was that the one? Bob. Bill plays Bob. All right, I'll change that. Yeah, we'll get it right after first service. It is better than Ghostbusters. I know, that's pretty tough. Although his appearance in Zombieland is classic, okay? Almost makes up for saving his career from Garfield. So that was just unwatchable. Upon rewatching it, I'm even considering putting it in my top 10 movies of all time. Groundhog Day. Simple, charming for Bill Murray, which is kind of weird. Especially the messages in it are just really good. There is a lot of depth, believe it or not, to that movie. As an added bonus, you get Chris Elliott, the cameraman. How many of you knew who Chris Elliott was? All right, you weirdos. All right, Chris Elliott started out, if you remember, he was on David Letterman. That cameraman, who is just a terrible actor, won 4 Emmys for writing for David Letterman. He did an old show called Get a Life. Does anybody remember Get a Life? Wow. Yeah. I'm so sorry. Get a Life was it was his like chance of doing a sitcom. It was terrible, but it was so good. So if you want to watch a train wreck of a series, watch Chris Elliott and Get a Life. At the time, we were also living in Pittsburgh, and so there's a little bit of nostalgia because it starts in Pittsburgh, and he drives out Pittsburgh. You get all the scenes of Pittsburgh. And they had to Punxsutawney, but the movie is not filmed in Punxsutawney or in Pittsburgh. They didn't like the town of Punxsutawney. They said it didn't look like Punxsutawney. And so they filmed it in Woodstock, Illinois, because they said the town square looked more like what Punxsutawney should look like. I just love that idea. When I have done these at the movie messages, I've done them traditionally at Christmas. I've done a few around Valentine's Day at times. I do them with this idea that the best movies touch on some part of the truth of God's design. That the movies people click with most are hitting on something different. The closer they get to those truths, illustrating them either positively or illustrating them negatively, the more we connect to them. Because there's something in us that makes us aware of God's story that goes on around us. And the reason I'm tempted to have Groundhog Day in my top 10 movies of all time is because, and I don't even know if the writer did this intentionally. If he did, he is brilliant, but this movie touches on some really deep truths. Now, how many of you gotten in the habit of when you watch one of the movies we're going to talk about, you're trying to guess what I'm going to say? All right, yeah. This is one of those movies where if you watch it when you're thinking of it on biblical terms, we had our neighbors over the other night, and we were watching it, and we were talking about, how when you're watching it for deep themes, you can find them, and they came up with some really good ideas that I'd wish I heard before I read this message. So their ideas were really, really good. So you're getting what I came up with, all right? So if you don't know the movie, it follows Pittsburgh weatherman Phil, who is played by Bill Murray. He is going to cover Groundhog Day in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania for his TV station, and he finds himself trapped in a time loop in which he wakes every morning at 6 a.m. to relive Groundhog Day. If you don't know the movie, it follows weatherman. I'm not going to keep doing that, all right? Here, Phil is the only one who recognizes that they are trapped in this time loop. No one else knows that they're reliving the day over and over. And even if Phil dies, he wakes up at 6 a.m. on the dot the next morning to start Groundhog Day over and over and over. No one knows how long he is trapped in the time loop. The movie shows 38 distinct days, and some have theorized for him to do everything he eventually does, he has to be stuck for up to 1,000 days. The director stated he thinks Phil was stuck for at least 10 years in the time loop in Punxsutawney, where it doesn't look like it should. So he's stuck there. The first few times that he starts the day over, he freaks out, but eventually he accepts what's happening, and he tries to adapt to the craziness that is going on. And so the movie actually has 3 very distinct sections of how Phil deals with the time loop and being stuck on Groundhog Day. So section 1 is Phil finds appeal in living in Groundhog Day. Once he gets over the shock, there is an appeal to living in a world that has no lasting consequences whatsoever. With no lasting consequences, though, Phil's worst instincts take over. And so without instincts, he takes advantage of people with no consequences. He seduces a woman under false pretenses. He punches an annoying guy. That was kind of, yeah. He mocks, he belittles others. He robs an armored car. He's using the money to buy cars and clothes and women. And we find that when Phil realizes there are no lasting consequences for his behavior, his unrestrained behavior, it's pretty nasty. He does not give in to his good instincts. The bad instincts take over. That hits on one of the first biblical truths that we find in this movie. Our unrestrained natural instincts tend to be sarcastic, belittling, and at times even criminal, when we are left to our own devices. In the Bible, we have the world right before the great flood. People have ignored God, and they begin to think there's not going to be any consequences for anything we do. So what is the result of the whole world at that time going, it's going to be consequence-free. Nothing is going to happen to us for our behavior. Take a look at Genesis chapter 6. Genesis chapter 6, verses 5 and 6. Here's the result of all these people living as if there's not going to be consequences. Genesis chapter 6, verses 5 and 6. The Lord observed the extent of human wickedness on the earth, and he saw that everything they thought or imagined was constantly and totally evil. So the Lord was sorry he had ever made them and put them on the earth. It broke his heart. No consequences. Let's do whatever we want. You get the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. Check out Genesis chapter 18. Genesis 18, verse 20. Genesis 18:20. So the Lord told Abraham, I have heard a great outcry from Sodom and Gomorrah because their sin is so flagrant. I'm going down to see if their actions are as wicked as I've heard. If not, I want to know. The cities of Sodom and Gomorrah start thinking there's not going to be any consequences. We can live however we want. And God says, look, if I find out they're as evil as they say, I'm going to wipe them out. And Abraham says, well, if you find just 10 good people in the city, will you forgive them and relent? And God says, sure. If I can find 10 good people, I won't bring judgment. But when the angels go into the city looking like normal people, here's what we find. Genesis 19, 4 and 5. But before they retired for the night, all the men of Sodom, young and old, came from all over the city and surrounded the house. They shouted to Lot, where are the men who came to spend the night with you? Bring them out to us so we can have sex with them. The whole city, when they think there's no consequences. The kings in the Bible start thinking because they are kings, there are no consequences for them. They can do whatever they want. The same thing happens. They don't embrace their best instincts. They embrace their worst. 2 Kings chapter 21, verse 6 says this. Manasseh also sacrificed, one of the kings of Israel, sacrificed his own son in the fire. He practiced sorcery and divination, and he consulted with mediums and psychics. He did much that was evil in the Lord's sight, arousing his anger. Verse 16 continues on about him, and it says this. Manasseh also murdered many innocent people until Jerusalem was filled from one end to the other with innocent blood. This was in addition to the sin that he caused the people of Judah to commit, leading them to do evil in the Lord's sight. 2 Chronicles 21:4, another king. But when Jehoram had become solidly established as king, he killed all of his brothers and some of the other leaders of Judah. Matthew 2:16. Herod was furious when he realized that the wise men had outwitted him. He sent soldiers to kill all the boys in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years and under, based on the wise men's report of the star's first appearance. These kings that start thinking, I'm above the law. There are no consequences for me. They don't become better and better. They get worse and worse and worse. When we are left to our own devices, when we think there are no consequences, we don't tend to turn to our nobler instincts. We tend to become terrible, terrible, terrible people. Look at how people treat each other on social media, and when they think they are anonymous and won't be held accountable for their words. If you had to say the stuff to someone's face that you will say online, you'd never do it because you'll go, I'll be held accountable for that. They'll know it's me. But man, when you can be anonymous, we are nasty. Crimes increase during power outages. When the power goes out, the police report more crime. When banks were deregulated in the 1980s, white-collar crime skyrocketed. San Francisco saw a 40% increase in theft in 2022 when they reduced the prosecution of shoplifting, leading to store closures in the affected areas. The town in the movie was lucky only one man knew there were no consequences for what he did on Groundhog Day, or this movie would quickly cease to be a comedy. It would become a horror movie. We like to think it would be great to have no consequences, to do whatever we want, to eat whatever we want, to say whatever we want. But the truth is, if everyone started doing what's right in their own eyes, thinking there will be no consequences, disaster follows, both corporately as a group and as individuals. That becomes the second part of this movie, the problem of living in Groundhog Day. The problem living in a world where there's no consequences for what you do. At one point, Phil asked a guy, what would you do if you were stuck in one place and every day was exactly the same and nothing you did mattered? If there are no consequences, there's also no purpose. Doesn't matter, good or bad, what we do. It's nice living like there's no tomorrow for a while, but then it becomes empty. After not too many days, Phil runs out of things that he wants to do. What good is money if you can have as much as you want whenever you want it? He gets tired of eating as much as he can whenever he wants. The girl who was easy to get doesn't stay interesting very long. The book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible is dedicated to this idea. If you really want an uplifting read Ecclesiastes someday, all right? It tells you what the world would be like if there was no purpose to anything, if there was no consequence. King Solomon says he pursued unbridled pleasure. He accumulated great wealth. He got all the knowledge he could get, experienced all the sexual pleasure he could, and every other temporary pleasure the world offered. Says, I got it all. I'm the king. I could do whatever I want. There was no consequences for me. I tried it all. And then in Ecclesiastes 12:8 and several other places throughout Ecclesiastes, here's his conclusion. Everything is meaningless, says the teacher. Completely meaningless. Sounds like Phil and Groundhog Day, doesn't it? Once he gets everything he ever wanted, he doesn't say, I'm so happy now. I'm so content. He gets depressed. Everything's meaningless. None of this brings me anything. Everything is meaningless if there will be no consequences. If the moment we are in right now is all there is, if you can have as much as you want whenever you want it without effect, that gets old very fast. I remember in youth ministry, one of the things you do in youth ministry, you eat pizza all the time. All right? I mean, we had pizza 3-4 times a week. Why? It was easy. It was cheap. Kids all generally like it. It was paid for by the church. It was always available. I ate pizza so much, I can't eat it anymore. I'll eat it every once in a while, but I'm going, it has no appeal anymore. Anyone ever work at a fast food restaurant and you can't stand their food now? How many of you go, I still smell like that food? That's how it works. Netflix researchers found that binge watching entire seasons would reduce viewer engagement and enjoyment of the series, and the series that find more enjoyment and more engagement are the ones that have weekly episodes still. Why? Because I can't get it all at once. Can't have all I want. It's limited. Video game companies discovered that the games with unlimited resources and power quickly became boring to people, but those that required effort and had limited resources you could get, people would play forever and ever and ever. Studies show that couples who live together before marriage often report less satisfaction in marriage than those who wait until they get married. not being able to have whatever we want, whenever we want it, without consequences, get this, it's a gift from God. That he limits us. That he tells us you can't have everything you want whenever you want it. We see that as a bad thing, and we don't realize what a blessing God has given us. It helps us enjoy what we do have. So, after having some time living with no limits and no consequences, Phil doesn't become more satisfied, happy, content. He actually longs to die. I can have anything I want, anytime I want it. I just want to die. His days become full of chaos and attempts at death. It actually results on what I think is the funniest scene in the movie when he kidnaps the groundhog and has them film them jumping off the cliff. Bill Murray actually had a real groundhog during that scene. It bit him. He had to go in for they said he had to get rabies shots and stitches, and I'm going movie stars have a hard life. We don't understand, all right? And if you listen carefully, I can swear when that truck hits the ground and explodes, you hear a groundhog scream. Just go back and watch it. I think it's there, all right? So, how is he going to fix this situation? Because he also finds out he can't die. There's no consequence there either. That leads to the third section, and that is, how do we find value? If everything is meaningless and all the stuff we can accumulate and get and experience, how do we find value? In the beginning of the movie, Phil looks for what other people can do for him. That's his goal. He desires to be valued and admired and loved, but the way he does that is by demanding to be seen as important, or he half-heartedly pretends to be nice to people, to manipulate them to kind of be nice to him, but he always ends up being seen for exactly what he is, and that is a self-centered bore. Everybody sees through him. In the time loop, he spends days, if not what looks like years, trying to look like everything his producer Rita wants in a man in order to manipulate her into falling in love with him and ultimately sleeping with him. Now, our wives, when we watched this with our neighbors, thought that the meaning of this movie was, men, we should learn to be better to our wives. I replied, we don't got the time Bill Murray had in this movie, man. That did not go over well, all right? Yeah, thank you. It's always good to get booed on Sunday mornings, all right? By your wife. All right, so you won't be here second, third service, right? Free for all. Come on back. I'll be saying some things I don't say this service. So, all right? Every time, though, he tries to manipulate her into loving him or sleeping with him, she sees through his manipulation, she sees through the fakeness, and she is able to see who he really is. And it results in the scene where you just get the end of every day, and it was really interesting. It was pointed out, it got earlier and earlier in the day, it ended with her just slapping him. And I didn't catch it at first, but when we were talking about the movie at our house, you noticed that the days, it was earlier and earlier in the day that he couldn't pull it off anymore, and she would catch on. At one point, she says to him, is this what love is for you? Just getting what you want? But then there's a day, he kind of seems to give up on the game, and he does something he has never tried before. He tells Rita the truth. And he admits he's a creep, he's not a good person, and he's miserable, stuck in the time loop. And she suggests something to him. Maybe he could use his endless time to improve himself, to become a better person, to use his time doing good for others. Now, it's interesting, this has never crossed Phil's mind. So Phil learns multiple languages. He learns to play the piano, make ice sculptures, and he begins to truly take interest in the other people in the town. There's a great scene where he's trying to prove to Rita he's caught in a time loop, and you find out he has learned about every person in town, all the details of their lives. To the point that he vows to not let anyone die on his day. No harm's going to come to these people. He becomes so focused on helping others that one day he even rejects Rita's offer to go get coffee because he has to go help others. Where his goal used to be to get her, it's now, you know what? You can wait. I've got to go help these people. And he moves beyond pleasing himself, even beyond falling in love, to being totally about serving others. And he's not just going through the motions, he is truly changing, becoming a different person. And suddenly you see Phil becoming content in his situation. The situation hasn't changed at all. He does. And there's a scene near the end where he tells Rita that he doesn't care if she loves him or not, he will love her. This writer doesn't know what he's stumbled into. The kind of love Phil expresses in that scene echoes the concept of agape love in the Bible. It's a Greek word. The Greeks had several words for love, but agape love in the Bible is the highest form of love. It is selfless, it is sacrificial, it is unconditional. And Phil's declaration that he will love Rita regardless of whether she reciprocates or not mirrors the biblical idea that love is not dependent on the actions or feelings of another person. There's a clear biblical parallel here. Take a look at Romans chapter 5. If you've been here for a while, Romans is a really good book, so you should check it out sometimes. Romans 5:8. But God showed his great love for us by sending Christ to die for us while we were still sinners. This verse highlights the unconditional nature of God's love, which is given freely and without any expectation of anything in return. Phil's ability to express true biblical love, not only to Rita, but to everyone in the town, not for his own gain, but purely for their well-being, mirrors true love. Biblical God love. In fact, his ability to love selflessly is his greatest act of growth in the movie. He is no longer about manipulation or trying to win affection and admiration, to feel valuable, to get something out of it. He simply is living out biblical love. I'm going to care for these people. I'm going to serve them. 1 Corinthians chapter 13. 1 Corinthians 13, take a look. Verses 4 through 7. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. And when Phil experiences and expresses the love of God to others, where at the beginning of the movie, he is trying to force people to value and love him, on the last day, as he is hanging out with Rita, the various townspeople keep approaching him. And what do? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. They come to him constantly expressing their gratitude for the love that he has shown them. And one day, what he had tried to force comes to him when he is no longer trying to get it. And viewing others as valuable, forgetting about himself, he becomes invaluable. Kind of biblical. Matthew 10:39, Jesus says, if you cling to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for me, you will find it. And then Rita, who has always been able to see through his outer appearance to the real Phil, finally, genuinely falls in love with him. And as she falls asleep by his side, after not even having sex, just spending time together, remember, true love, the clock turns to 6 a.m., and it's the next day. And Phil's words to Rita are this: is there anything I can do for you today? Lesson learned. Ecclesiastes 12, 13 and 14. This is the whole story. Here now is my final conclusion. Fear God and obey his commandments, for this is everyone's duty. God will judge us for everything we do, including every secret thing, whether good or bad. The conclusion in Ecclesiastes is there are consequences. Our life does mean something. We are not living in Groundhog Day. The end will come. And like Phil, many of us start out living for ourselves, thinking the best thing would be if I can just be free of consequences, that will bring us a sense of value and it will bring us happiness and contentment. But that path is a dead end. True meaning and joy come when we realize life will have consequences and that God designed us to live for something greater than today. To live for something greater than ourselves. Now, if you're new to the idea of following Jesus, you might feel overwhelmed by that. Like you need to instantly become perfect or have it all figured out. But remember Phil's journey. He didn't transform overnight. He started with small choices, gradually learning to love and serve others. God doesn't expect instant perfection. He invites us into a relationship where he helps us to grow day by day. So start simple. Ask God simply each morning, what can I do for you today? What would you have me do? Begin looking for ways to show the love of God to others. Trust that even small matters, small acts of love, selfless love, expecting nothing in return, will have incredible consequences, eternal consequences. Kindness matters. But also remember this, unlike Phil's Groundhog Day, we don't get unlimited chances to start over. That is actually a good thing. That means we do have purpose. Every day does count. Life has great meaning. And through Jesus, we do get a fresh chance for a new start every day. We get a chance every day to live for him. With purpose, with the opportunity to love others selflessly, and to make choices that will have eternal significance. And that is a great blessing. Let's pray. Lord, we thank you. We thank you for consequences. We thank you that we can't have everything we want whenever we want it. That in your wisdom you realize that that's what gives us purpose, that's what gives life meaning. That there is more than what we see this day. That there will be an end and we will be held accountable. And that gives us purpose and it gives us meaning. And that means all of our choices count. It means that when we love others, it really makes a difference eternally. We pray that you will help us to embrace that truth and that we will seek to just ask you every day, what can we do for you? And I pray in Jesus' name, amen.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my doom till I met you. When you called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Now your mercy has saved my soul. Now your freedom is all that I know. The old made new, Jesus, when I met you. When you called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. I needed rescue, my sin was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan, now you called me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing, now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open, 'cause when you call my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You call my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to feel, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I felt The earth shall soon dissolve like snow. The sun forget to shine, but God has called me here below. Will be forever mine. Will be forever mine. You are forever mine.
We can never be reminded enough how much that God loves us, that selfless agape love for us. And so one of the things we do here at Meridian and all of our congregations is we take communion on a weekly basis. We try to model ourselves after what the early church looked like, and one of the things we find in the early church is every time they got together, they had communion. Communion was a time for believers to remember the endless love that Jesus had for us, and that when we were still sinners, God sent his son. And so at this time, what we do is we have tables at the sides and the front and the back, and we just encourage you to spend some time in prayer. Whenever you're ready, you can go and grab a cup and some bread, bring it back to your seat. Spend time thanking God for his love and what he's done for us during this time.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my turn till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my turn till I met you. When you called my chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan. Now you call me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. Now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open, 'cause when you call my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. You call my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day.
Good morning. Today is Groundhog's Day, and the ground. I'll do that again, all right? So if you have a seat for a moment, want to let you know some things coming up. This Thursday, we start what we call our Thursday things. We do all different stuff. We have, at 6 o'clock, we have a potluck, so just bring some food to share. You don't have to make anything, okay? It's okay to go buy some stuff, like, filet of fish, Hostess cupcakes, anything like that, you could bring. So if you want to bring some of those, Lay's potato chips, Will gave me, multiple bags for Christmas. Best present. You're better than anybody in my family. So want to encourage you, 6 o'clock on Thursday, we have a potluck. And then following that, we do various things. This coming week, we're going to do a roundtable on what it means to be in missions, serving in missions, how churches can help missionaries out, both locally and on foreign fields. We're going to talk to past missionaries, current ministries. And so I just want to end this morning. Avonlea Blackburn has been involved in missions all of your life and has got a new thing she is getting ready to do, and just want to give her a second to share with you about what that is.
Hi, everyone. As Barry has said, my name is Avonlea Blackburn, and I have been in missions for the majority of my life. It all started when I was 7 years old, and my family packed us all up and moved us to China. And suddenly, at this young age, I was thrust into this weird world where I didn't understand the language, I didn't understand the culture, and the food seemed a little suspicious. But from living in missions, I learned that the impact that they can have, especially in China, people who are looking around trying to figure out what it is, what is the meaning for their life, what they're hoping to do, and just telling the simple story of the gospel, such hope that was shown to them, and it made their lives so much better, and they wanted to share it with so many other people. Also, while I was in China, we met other missionaries there from different organizations, from different walks of life, and we all sort of just made a little community. If somebody was doing a VBS during the summer and needed volunteers, we were all there. If somebody was doing a Bible study and needed other people to come and help share the gospel, we were there. And just having that tight-knit community and meeting all these people really solidified in my mind that I wanted to be a missionary when I grew up. And this encouraged me on several missions that I've already done in my life, to Italy, to Japan. I've even been to Scotland for a while. And I'm about to start a brand new missions. I wanted to be sure that I had all of the materials that I needed. So I got a degree in basic Bible, but I also knew that God wanted more in my life. So I also got a degree in fine arts. And with that, I prayed to God, asking him, okay, now in this next step, where would you like me? And he led me to Team Expansion to join their international services as their graphic designer. Team Expansion has been a mission organization for over 40 years, ever since a group of college kids gathered around a world map and prayed for God to use them to spread the gospel to the nations. Currently, Team Expansion has over 300 missionaries all around the world committed to creating disciple-making movements to the unreached peoples. And in international services, I get to be there to help them. Being a missionary is really hard. As we've said earlier, you're learning a new language, you're learning a new culture, you're learning a new governmental system. And for some missionaries, you're doing all of that while trying to keep yourselves and the people that you're sharing the gospel with safe. And so my job in the communications team is to take away some of that worry. I'll be helping other missionaries with their newsletters, with prayer events, with testimonial videos, anything that they could possibly need that will require a media presence, we will be there to help. And that way they can solely focus on sharing the gospel to their people. And by having them focus on that, they can come back and tell their stories to us, and we will share that with their supporters. But that also means I get to share that with you. So if this is something that you're interested in, please scan that QR code and sign up for my newsletter so I can share these stories with you. If you have any other questions or just want some more general information, I have a table out there in the lobby, and I would love to talk to you. So please, feel free to come talk to me.
One, thank you for coming out this morning. Once again, if I didn't get a chance to introduce myself and say hi, I'll be in the back of the room. All kinds of stuff going on in the lobby today. The Thursday thing's coming up at our house this afternoon at 4 p.m. If you'd like to know more about the church, see me in the back. Otherwise, go and be the church. Thank you for being here.